This documentary is about special needs education and funding in New Zealand. At Lyell Bay School in Wellington, the day is just starting for 8-year-old Aiden. Aiden has autism and has received funding since he was 5 years old, but in December, that funding will end.
He's been doing great with the extra resources and the funding that he's had, which has brought us from a kid who used to break a pair of glasses every day when he first started school to maybe once every 6 months now. He is actually quite a danger to himself in a lot of areas. Just recently he bit a mouse cord. If that had been an electrical cord, he would have ended up in hospital if not 6 foot under.
There's a current discussion, not evidence-based, that about 1 in 58 children in schools are on the spectrum.
I get really annoyed with the hierarchy of the ministry just saying that because he can write a few wee answers on the paper, that he doesn't need a bit of one-on-one help. They say that he is good enough to carry on his own. He's got no social skills, and the social skills he has got are building but are very slow in coming.
I help him with mostly social situations, really. He's quite an intelligent boy, but his speech is not so great, so it's about helping other people understand his language. He's got a very short attention span, so finding other ways to deliver the classroom programs.
And for us, him not having any teacher aid will just drive us into drink at home because we'd have to work that extra mile to either employ someone ourselves because we can see the benefit of having one-on-one with him.
I really believe that he will require assistance throughout his schooling years.
The reality for these children, of course, is that they do need one-on-one or at least sometime one-on-one because of the anxiety and the triggers that happen in a classroom.
Without programs being developed for them, a lot of these children can't access the curriculum. They find it extremely difficult to understand what's going on around them.
Aiden has started swimming the last 2 terms because his teacher aide has been great and is willing to take him down, look after him while he's down there and deliver him back to school in one safe piece.
George has been attending Lyell Bay School since 2005, but it was only this year that he started receiving funding.
George is 10 years old. He has been at Lyell Bay since he started school. It's really important that he gets extra support with the funding. That enables him to learn. He has a lot more regular input from teaching, able to adjust their curriculum to meet his needs and also to help develop his sensory side of things that's kind of tangled up with dyspraxia. That's really important to manage to enable him to learn.
And high needs require, to be honest, an awful lot of support, a lot of one-to-one. So it's vital for those children to always have someone who's there for them, but allows them to be part of, in a school, particularly part of the school.
Disabled children are part of the community of all children, and they should be in those places where children gather. Mainly they gather in schools in their own community, and schools are the place where children make friends, where children begin on those lifelong community-centred relationships.
We really wanted to start him off early, get him integrated into a system where he was dealing with, you know, the normal school child.
It all begins at their local school. So mainstream education or inclusive education is of central importance for children, for disabled children and for communities, and I'd say for the country.
The neurotypical child is very supportive of the special needs children in their class or in their school. They treat them really well.
Quite often the classroom teacher will give us maybe specific instructions, or when we're doing a group activity which doesn't involve the child, we will change the rules or bend the rules to actually involve the child in them, and we will always try and include the child into the games we're playing or the activities we're doing. So, and we are actively encouraged to do that.
The answer is always no. There is never enough money for children to do really well in schools.
For some students, it may be. But what we hear, what I actually see here is from principals, schools and families, that it isn't enough and there isn't the financial or human resource to include students with disabilities really well.
There are teachers out there like me who dip into their own pockets. We do that quite willingly because we know there is not enough funding out there for these children. And it's like they are a little packet that is in a too hard basket for government.
Simply there's not enough money for those children, and it will always be a battle that schools face.
So for some schools, no, the funding is not enough. The majority of the schools would say they want more, and you'd get a very few that would say that they think they get enough.
I've had parents in the past who have offered to pay the school so that we can put teachers' aides and support the children in the classroom environment to help them access the curriculum. And I really feel for those parents because morally I don't think those parents should have to pay extra money for that.
Aiden has lost a lot of funding even over the last 3 years. We've gone down $1,000 a year, and I'm sorry, but under 10,000 is not enough to keep a teacher aide and nice employment and to work properly with both teacher and child.
Some parents tell us that just when they turn up, there isn't a welcome because the child is tagged disability and the principal's thinking, how can we do this thing without the money? How can we do this thing really well, knowing that teachers haven't got the expertise to teach disabled children?
So the difficulties in a class situation is teachers have to think on their feet. They have to provide for 30 other children as well as this one child who requires one-to-one, and that's pretty much what it is for most of these children.
The teacher will not be able to give him one-on-one to help specialise in areas that he does need with the normal topics of school, e.g. maths, spelling, writing. He will definitely, if not cautious, will cause body harm to either himself or to another child.
Yeah, and if funding for a child goes down, then obviously the hours that we can employ a support person also has to be adjusted. So we're talking about people's jobs, and we don't want to just treat people as, you know, sorry, there's no funding, so therefore you lose the job. So that's really, I guess, what makes it more difficult for schools to meet the needs of these children, because we're constantly battling with resources.
We know that it is discrimination because we know that no other child in that school gets sent home at lunchtime because the teacher aide isn't there. No other child's parents get asked to pay for in-class support for their child as parents of disabled children do. No other child is banned from going on school camps or being part of the school production because of the support needs, which aren't financially resourced.
You can't expect a child to miss out on school activities because they haven't got someone who can spend that wee bit extra time.
IHC has filed a complaint to the Human Rights Commission under Part 1A of the Human Rights Act, which talks about discrimination, and successive governments haven't dealt with the problem. This is a human rights issue. It's about the human rights of disabled children to be treated like other children in the school environment.
You need to be able to have a classroom that is willing to accept these kids and take responsibility as well. So you have to have all those skills of teaching them to work with a moderate needs child who's a difficult child. Usually they are quite difficult in a class setting.
What we do need to do is change the culture of schools so that schools are A, more aware of autism, and B, more willing to accept difference within the school and embrace it in a way that enables all children, whether they have extra needs or not, to learn from those who have special needs, and we don't do that well here.
We need government leadership to ensure that every child is welcomed and their learning needs met in that school environment. And it's going to take leadership from government to ensure that every school is an inclusive school, to ensure that all the funding is in place to make it an easier job for schools.
The recent Special Education Review report that's come out has tagged more money, which is a good thing. So there are another 1,000 children who have special needs who will get GORS funding. There are also another 1,000 children between the ages of 5 and 8 who will get extra assistance as well, so that's a plus.
I think that it's the rest of the world that need to come up to speed with what's going on with these kids.